If someone were to present themselves to you and said, "Listen, I'm going to explain to you the mystery of the Blessed Trinity in a way in which you can understand," be afraid and plug your ears, because what will come next, I guarantee you, is heresy. Our limited human capacity, the smallness of our minds, despite our pride in our great achievements, is incapable and always will be, even into eternity, of comprehending the mystery of the Blessed Trinity. How there can be three distinct persons, but yet there still remains one God. There are some things that we simply do have to take on faith. About that, there can be no doubt. If God is going to reveal himself to us, we must believe that he would not deceive, because he cannot deceive nor be deceived. That he would authentically and genuinely tell us plainly, who he is, knowing full well that we could never grasp the mystery, that we simply have to accept it as it is. Similarly, next Sunday, for example, we'll be celebrating the feast of Corpus Christi. And there we will honor with great solemnity, the sacrament of Christ's body and blood. Another mystery that we cannot begin to comprehend. We can talk an awful lot about it, but at the end of the day, it simply remains a mystery. In the 6th chapter of the Gospel, according to St. John, Jesus taught the doctrine of the Holy Eucharist. And we're told that the people listening to him could not bear what he was saying. And they said among themselves, "We will no longer follow him." And so they left. So naturally, Jesus Christ, turns to his disciples and he says, "And you? Do you also want to leave?" Pay very, very close attention to the admirable humility of St. Peter. The exact same humility with which we need to approach not just the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist, but also the mystery of the Blessed Trinity. "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of everlasting life." We know, and we have come to believe, that you are truly the Son of God. Faith requires sometimes that we simply accept the mystery simply as that, a mystery, but nonetheless it is because of the authority of the one who revealed it. In the Old Testament, we get a variety of little shadows that they kind of hint at and point to the revelation of God as being three persons. But then Jesus Christ begins to make it a little more clear. And he says so in ways that can be, maybe a little confusing, but definitely thought-provoking, such as when he says, "Whoever sees me sees the Father," clearly indicating that he and the Father, to put it in philosophical terms, are of the same substance. And this is precisely why the religious leaders at the time despised him and sought to put him to death, because they understood correctly that he was identifying himself as equal with God. Indeed, he is. And then, of course, before he left this world after his resurrection, as we are told in today's gospel according to St. Matthew, he gives his disciples, this very specific command to go and teach all nations. And now he makes it perfectly and unambiguously clear. Baptize everyone you preach to and who believes in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. I understand that none of this is clarifying. But I want to kind of piggyback on something that Bishop Robert Barron said in his homily for this Sunday of the Solemnity of the Most Holy Trinity. Yes, I'm always preaching. I enjoy once a week listening to someone else, do the preaching. I enjoy him. But he was saying, and I found it kind of amusing because it is pretty insightful. He says, when you're preaching, people don't want to hear that God is a Trinity. They want you to tell them that God is love. And there's a sense in which that is true. But see, here's the catch. And this is what I'm going to expand upon with you this morning, is that to say God is love is the most theologically correct thing we can say about the mystery of the Blessed Trinity, drawing on our own human experience. Now, human experience in general is not to be trusted. But when we can look at our human experience and see that it corresponds to divine revelation, then that's something we can have a level of confidence in. And so what is our knowledge and our experience of love? Well, to begin with, you have to start with a lover. There has to be someone who loves. Secondly, there has to be a beloved, someone who is loved by the lover. And finally, there is the bond of love itself. Now, we did not clarify the mystery, but we did explain the reality in terms that we can at least wrap our minds around. But wait, I know. There's already a naysayer, because there's a naysayer always. Someone needs to be the devil's advocate, which is perfectly fine. And so someone could say, okay, well, I get it. Lover, beloved, but the bond of love? Isn't love a feeling? Isn't that an emotion? Isn't that a sentiment? Or let's get all Thomistic. Isn't love willing the good of the other? What are you talking about? Love. Subsistent love. What on earth? Well, let's back up and look at the big, broad picture before I zero in on the one point that I truly want to make. On the day of our baptism, when we were baptized in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, we were incorporated into the mystery of the inner life of the Blessed Trinity, participating in God's own divine life. And he poured his love into our hearts in order to make us one in love, so that as one, we might form a body that Christ is pleased to acknowledge as his bride. And this is where I kind of want to zero in with a little more focus. And so I'll appeal to couples that are married, but especially men and women who have lost their spouse. So we have a lover and we have a beloved. And when Jesus Christ taught the doctrine of holy matrimony, he was emphatic in reiterating what we were told in the book of Genesis, that the bond of love between a husband and wife is so intimate that though they are two bodies, they in reality become one flesh. And so to those who have buried a spouse, let me ask you, as I've asked this question sometimes during my homilies at funerals, where is that bond of love now? Did it die with your spouse? Did it disintegrate and fade into nothingness? Or is it now more deeply felt because of the loss, that it produces a sorrow proportionate to the love you had? And when a man or woman puts their spouse in the ground to return them to the dust out of which they were made, they turn from that grave and walk away, leaving part of their heart in the grave with their beloved. So I'd say to you, if someone were ever to come up to you, it does happen more often than not, because not all Christians share our faith in the mystery of the Blessed Trinity. So it can happen. Somebody says, "Oh, you Catholics, all your doctrines, all your incomprehensible doctrines. Can you please explain to me the Blessed Trinity?" And you know what? Now you are equipped to say, "Yes, I can. God is love." That is the most compact, precise, theologically accurate thing that we can say. That it is not a mystery that can be comprehended, but it is a mystery that can be experienced and known in our heart.